Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating and, frankly, kind of hidden world. A multi-billion-dollar industry that's all about buying and selling something most of us take for granted, our citizenship. Welcome to the global marketplace for passports.
So let's just start with this question. Think about it. For almost everyone, your passport is a part of who you are, a birthright tied to your national identity. But what if it wasn't? What if it was just another asset you could acquire? Something to stick in your investment portfolio right alongside your stocks and real estate?
Well, there's actually a name for this concept. It's a Latin term, jus pecunia, and it literally means acquiring citizenship through money. And look, this isn't some theoretical, futuristic idea. It is a booming, real-world industry that is fundamentally challenging what it even means to be a citizen.
Okay, so how does this whole thing actually work? I mean, how do you literally go about buying citizenship? Let's get into the mechanics of what the industry likes to call investment migration.
First off, you gotta know there are basically two main products on the menu. On one side, you've got golden visas. Think of this as the slow and steady route. It gets you a residence permit, sure, but full-on citizenship can take years, and you often have to actually live there. But on the other side, you've got the golden passports. This is the express lane, the rocket ship. It grants you citizenship directly, super fast, and sometimes you don't even have to set foot in the country. So what's this gonna cost you? Well, it depends, but there are three main ways to pay. The most direct is just a straight-up donation. You make a one-time, non-refundable contribution to the country's development fund. We're talking $250,000 minimum. Or you could buy a piece of real estate that the government has approved. Or, and this is an interesting one, you can basically just give the government an interest-free loan by buying their bonds, and you get that money back in, say, 5 years.
You'd think a process like this would be incredibly complicated, but it's surprisingly corporate. It's really straightforward. You pick your country, you hire a licensed agent to handle the paperwork, you make your investment, and then, and this is a big one, you have to pass some really strict background checks. If you get the all clear, you might have to swear an oath, and just like that, you've got a new passport. So this really brings us to the heart of it all. At the end of the day, this is a market, right? A classic case of supply and demand. You've got these small nations who are more than willing to sell, and you've got this growing global elite who are very, very eager to buy.
And make no mistake, we are talking about huge amounts of money. Just look at the European Union. In less than a decade, these programs funneled over 21 billion euros into member countries. That is a staggering amount of cash flowing in.
But you know, this isn't just about money moving around on a spreadsheet. That capital represents real people. During that same time frame, over 132,000 individuals got brand new residence or citizenship rights inside the EU.
So you have to ask, why on earth would a country sell its own citizenship? Well, for a lot of these small island nations, it's not a luxury, it's an economic lifeline. Take St. Kitts. Their whole economy was built on sugar, and when that industry collapsed because of global trade rules, they needed money, fast. Selling passports became a key source of revenue. For some of these tiny countries, these programs can make up more than a third of their entire GDP. It's a way to get cash without having to take loans from places like the IMF.
And on the other side of the coin, why are people lining up to buy? Well, the number one driver, especially for the wealthy from places like China, Russia, and the Middle East, is mobility. It's about getting that passport that lets you travel visa-free, especially to Europe. But it's also something else. It's seen as an insurance policy, a plan B in case things go south back home, politically or economically.
And if you want a perfect picture of how this works, check out this chart for St. Kitts. For years, their program just kind of chugged along, nothing special. But then, in 2009, they struck gold. They got visa-free access to Europe's Schengen area. And the result? Bam! Look at that spike. Applications just exploded. That one little perk made the value of their passport shoot through the roof.
But obviously, putting a price tag on something like national identity, well, it's going to be controversial. So let's turn to the really serious risks that have a lot of critics sounding the alarm.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The European Commission itself has been one of the biggest critics. They put out a report saying that these programs create risks, not just for the little countries selling the passport, but for the entire European Union. So why are they so worried?
Well, the list of concerns is pretty long. You've got the obvious security threat. What if the background checks aren't good enough and a criminal gets an EU passport? Then there are huge risks of money laundering and corruption. But you know, it also gets into this deeper, more philosophical territory about turning citizenship into a commodity and what that says about basic ideas of fairness and equality.
Now, faced with all this pressure, the industry has tried to clean up its act. They're trying to look more professional, hiring outside firms that specialize in deep-dive background checks. It's a way for them to add a layer of legitimacy and show the world that they're taking security seriously.
So, this all builds up to a much bigger, more profound question about the future of citizenship itself. I mean, are we watching a fundamental change in what it even means to be a citizen of a country?
There's a term for this, actually. Academics call it the thinning of citizenship. The idea is that we're moving away from citizenship as this core part of our identity, this deep, emotional sense of belonging, and shifting towards seeing it as just a strategic tool, something you acquire for an advantage.
And this historical comparison is just a brilliant way to understand this shift. On the one hand, you have the old Athenian model. Citizenship was about being part of a community, participating in politics, a deep sense of belonging. But then you have the Roman model. For them, citizenship wasn't about belonging. It was a portable legal possession. It was a tool that gave you rights and protection anywhere in their massive empire. It wasn't about voting in Rome. It was about the power it gave you everywhere else. Does that sound familiar?
And that's really the key takeaway here. The value of these passports today is increasingly external. The person buying a passport for Malta isn't doing it because they're dying to vote in Maltese elections. No, they're buying it because that Maltese passport gives them the right to live, work, and travel freely across all 27 other countries in the European Union. The value is outside the borders.
Which leaves us with this one final, really provocative thought. In our world today, a world that is so globalized, where money and people can move more freely than ever before, is citizenship just becoming another asset class? Is a passport just one more thing you strategically acquire and manage in your portfolio? It's a question that really shakes the very foundation of what we think a country is supposed to be.